Hey guys and gals, Venganza here, and welcome to the first ever episode of Cyberpunk Cyber News. That name is definitely pending, where we take a look at what's happening in and around the game Cyberpunk 2077. Today's episode, we're featuring some leaks and rumors from an anonymous CD Projekt Red employee. As with all leaks and rumors, be sure to take this with a pinch of salt, because 90% of the time they turn out to be completely false. Well, in this leak, he does discuss future content and rants over content that was cut but may be making a return to the game in the future. So sit back and relax and let's dive right in.
Downloading. Extraction complete.
I wanted to start off by first asking the centuries-old tradition of YouTubers asking to like and subscribe, please, so that way I know if I should get myself a new mic, because I know that this one sounds pretty terrible, and if I should keep on doing this or not. But anyways, let's get into the leak here. It was taken from a thread where a supposed CDPR developer was speaking anonymously off of a Gamefaqs Gamespot forum. It starts off with him saying, "This is still very hush-hush, but I'm fed up with this shit, so I'll disclose a few details. CDPR hurt themselves to keep investors safe and sound. Now devs are hearing plans of a No Man's Sky style comeback due to late June. The first two patches should come out mid-March, despite what's been said by top execs. There will be major departures from the studio in the coming months, because dev morale is on an all-time down, and Sony is roasting her asses due to that gigantic volume of refund requests. There was a meeting today with Sony execs to figure out a way to compensate players threatening with legal action. Sony Japan is especially furious." So obviously he's got some grammatical issues here where, like he just spells some things wrong and certain things are just abbreviated weird. So it kind of makes me wonder if he's actually a programmer or what his actual specific job is there. And that's just assuming that he's actually legitimate at all. But what this is saying is that come June, he is claiming that they're going to start reintroducing content that was cut from this game. And we should be hearing about it within the next couple of weeks, if not this week. Because this was posted a couple of weeks ago, so we should be hearing it sometime soon. What's going to be coming up with future DLC. He goes into more detail saying there's no finger pointing right now. Word on memos comes from the top. The directors and senior devs are taking the flak for the team in what I'd call an honorable move, in quotes. Just so you still know, we still joke about a quest that got rewritten more than a dozen times because a certain top dog wasn't, quote, feeling it. It ended up being cut from the final product and should come in a later DLC next year. So, really what I'm gathering from all of this is that sometime next year we should wind up seeing some of the cut content, but he goes on to talk about some of the stuff that will be coming as soon as June. There's people that get hired for whatever reason and stay in the company due to being, quote, trusted by the top dogs. A good chunk of the code is being scrapped and rewritten from scratch. The intended game might be ready by June 2021. So this is directly what he's saying, right? I think he's just a frustrated employee, if he's actually real. And he's saying that there is a lot of content that was in the game originally, but they decided to cut it out because they were not done, obviously. If you've played the regular console version, the PlayStation 4 and Xbox, the original ones, they're a mess. They're unplayable. There's lawsuits going on from investors and players alike. You can't even buy it on the Sony store right now. The footage that I have going on in the background is from my PlayStation 5. Anyways, this goes on for another 20 paragraphs or so, and I don't want to share it directly with you guys because if I do, this could get shut down from the forums here, and I don't want to see that happen because these leaks are definitely a good thing to come out. If you want to search for it, just kind of use some of the information I'm presenting inside this and find it on your own. If I put a link to there, there's going to be a swarm of people that'll go over there, and other YouTubers will definitely take my content I'm making here and post on theirs because that's what they do. Anyways, let's get back into what he's saying. So the next paragraph here, he says, that's already done and been ready since February. It didn't get implemented because of a major UI bug that is still present in the retail copies. If you open your .dat files on PC, you'll find a lot of scrapped content still in there. If you want a refund, please ask for it. It positively impacts us as devs because we've warned the leads a million times of that kind of shit. Most cosmetic overhauls should be ready by the second update, hopefully. The update that is due in June will sort out all of the bugs. The code for the PlayStation 4/Xbox One is getting scrapped and done separately. The PlayStation 5's code is an improvement on the PC due to the awesome dev kit Sony put together for this gen. In the next paragraph, he says, you'd be amazed by how much is already done. That, quote, cut content so people finish the main quest, quote, talk was all bullshit. Most apartments with closed, locked indications used to be lootable. We scrapped 50,000 lines of dialogue plus, and I believe the June update will bring a whole lot of cut content back into the game. So it seems like there's a lot of content that's missing here inside the actual game itself, and I'm assuming that's because the download size for Cyberpunk was going to wind up looking at around like 200 gigabytes. If this is all true, if they had all this extra content, all this extra space, the game is already pretty big right now. I would imagine that this would be like a 200 gigabyte game on download for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series 1, Xbox 2, or whatever the fuck it's called. The new PlayStation right now doesn't have dedicated expandable memory. I mean, you can get like an older one, but you can't use their SSD technology yet because it's not available for purchase. You can use the slower ones, but you can't use the newer ones. So I imagine they didn't want to wind up taking up half the space on your PlayStation day one, so they're probably going to have to condense a lot of the game to make it a little more optimized and everything like that, and then they'll start adding content as they go, so that way people can get expandable memory, or the game could be condensed enough so it doesn't wind up taking up the entire space of the PlayStation. So he goes on to say, to address the cut content as well, if they see that you guys are asking for shit to be put in the game, we might actually make the game as was intended back in 2018. There used to be a huge underground part of the city that the public never got to see because it, quote, looked ugly to the execs. It was fucking awesome and felt like the Malkavian Nosferatu part on Vampire the Masquerade. I never played that, personally. He goes on to talk about Keanu Reeves and how fun he was to work with, but he kind of made the character for Johnny not as fun as the original guy who sounded like Full Test on Crack. Talks about him for a while. So he winds up going on later on into the later paragraphs talking about a whole AI routine with major gang violence in the areas. So you could sit back and watch things unfold or directly influence what was going on inside that game. So there was a lot of drug use, right, with people walking around with kids that eventually got cut due to censorship. Now I'm paraphrasing a lot here because a lot of this is done with terrible grammar and it's really hard to read because it's just all over the place, and it makes me really wonder if this is credible or not, or if it's just a guy begging for attention. But he goes on for a long time about these certain additions. So I'm going to paraphrase the rest of this because I'm having a hard time reading this and then reading it back to you guys in a way that is in English. Um, in this paragraph right here, he talks about a robotic police officer that tells people to go off themselves, but that got censored. All these different things that got censored. You see police trying to operate and break down mid-arrest due to your shenanigans. It might sound weird, but the disaster launch was actually something beneficial from our perspective. Quote, a cold shower sets priorities straight, and so we're able to resume work on what was originally intended without having those fuckers breathing down our necks to publish. End quote. So he goes on to talk about miscommunications, things not being ready by E3, and them having to jumble together stuff. Apparently, the last developer composition before they had to scrap everything was 160 gigabytes alone. So there would have been a lot of whistleblowing. And especially in the next couple of weeks, there might be some whistleblowing from developers having all their content cut, because 160 gigabytes isn't just content. That's something that developers spent time on, and if they wind up seeing 2 months of their work getting thrown out, they're going to be pissed. And I imagine that there's bound to be more whistleblowers coming out. So that's the thing that makes me think that this might be credible, despite this guy's terrible ability to speak English. It's really hard to speak this out without losing my nerve here. Apparently, the Series X was very difficult to write off of because of load orders, but the PlayStation 4's next-gen architecture was very good for ports. So he goes on to talk about some of the company policies about releasing weird. Here's a quote here. Really thinking about my friends who will be in the office for the next couple months redoing scrapped work without being able to say, I fucking told you this is your fault, boss. Next E3 will be bizarre for CDPR, I bet. End quote. It's hard to read. Apparently there's 2 whole arcs that they wind up scrapping. There's a big portion of the underground that was scrapped. Night City had 3 different types of cabs, except for the Villa Fort, which is in right now. And the drivers would actually hold full conversations and even give you quests that you would pick up from conversation. That was all scrapped. There was a police finding script in works. If you don't know right now, if you played this game, the police, if you ever get in trouble, they'll just poof, spawn right behind you, and you get killed most often or not if you don't just run away. I mean, you can fight them off if it's just like one guy, but their spawns are ridiculous. Apparently that was all in game, but they had to cut it because of some major oversight. But apparently in the next patch or big patch, they're gonna be fixing that. Morgan Blackhand story. And the nod to the corporate wars is going to be a big DLC. And apparently, that's about it here. So, I'm sorry that this wound up being a very difficult video for me to contextualize for you guys. Because this guy's writing is horrible. There's a lot of swearing that he censors himself doing, and I don't know what's the point of swearing and then censoring yourself. I don't know why people do that. He just seems mad and wants to let people know what's going on, I guess. But so I guess a good breakdown of this is we're going to see a lot of DLCs in this year and next year, and most of it's going to wind up being rewritten, cut content from this game. So we're going to see an underground, hopefully. We're going to wind up seeing taxi cabs, police acting more realistic than just standing there and doing nothing. We're going to have gang violence that can actually be interacted with and stopped, or maybe you can help them with it. You can make your choices more than things being completely scripted as they are right now. I haven't beaten this game yet, but from what I've heard, just about every ending is scripted. You can't have as many endings as was promised, or I shouldn't say promised, is what they made you feel like it was going to be when they were presenting this game. Apparently that's going to be added in, new endings, new DLCs, new content, with an entire underground section, more buildings to go into. These parts of the map right here that I'm looking at right now, where you can go and fight gangs, that's going to wind up being interactable. So, thanks for watching. I hope it didn't get preachy at all, or hope it didn't wind up becoming a little too confusing. I just wanted to go into depth here about some of these leaks and rumors. And again, take this all with a pinch of salt, and I will see you guys next time. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and tell me down below what I need to do right or what you'd like to see change, because I am brand new to this and I would love to hear you guys' feedback. So take care, Venganza out. Later, y'all.